Greetings, magnificent souls, to the Attract Health, Build Wealth podcast, where we have open and honest discussions about ourselves. This is a place where we break down, break away, and break through codependency, allowing ourselves to attract health, build wealth, and live a peaceful life. We are tired of being sick and tired. We are tired, but we are not giving up. We know that there is something magnificent inside of us. And because we are fighting daily, hourly, and by the minute, fighting ourselves, our kids, our spouses, we have to do things differently. We have to break the cycle. So we don't have a million chances. We have to be happy now. We have to find a way. So how do we do that? How is that possible? If you look around at what society is telling you, they tell you that what we're doing is impossible. Yet it's happening every single day. And it's happening through the practice and the love that we call awakening the magnificent soul. We are all magnificent souls, and these are our stories of healing. Today in episode 44, we are tackling part 8 of a 10-part series all focused on control. Specifically, I want to talk about something that came up recently in a podcast guest interview, and that's about choice. So I will be covering choice and codependency and what, if anything, that has to do with control. But before we get into the discussion, don't forget to let me know your thoughts about this episode, any feedback you have, or anything you'd like me to cover on future podcasts at epiphanyvault.com. Remember, you can share anonymously. It is a safe place, and I would welcome the discussion. I actually had an entry into the Epiphany Vault that an anonymous listener is giving me permission to share. So here it is. The listener writes, I am 35 years old and in a 7-year relationship with my partner. I have moved across the ocean to be with her and generally have been willing to do everything to make our relationship work. My skills to identify and communicate my needs are underdeveloped, while I usually accept my partner's needs as taking priority over my own. This has led me to developing a strong depression, even though on the surface I am a high-achieving, steady individual. I'm willing to give up everything I have for this relationship. I have given up control over most of our day-to-day decisions, going so far as to not be in control of when to eat or not, or what to spend money on or not. I'm starting to resent my partner, even though I see a powerful and beautiful woman that I want to be loved by. She openly admits that she wants me to be a different person. And even though I agree that I have issues that need to be addressed, I feel that in a way we are both flawed. Both flawed individuals that are trying to find a way in this world to be happy. I am very openly admitting my flaws, and I have been actively working on those. The more I understand what got me into what got me into my own mess and what kind of cognitive traps I'm falling into, the more I understand my partner's behavior as a result of some of the same insecurities. What concerns me, though, is that I'm finding myself in a position where I feel the need to take full responsibility for whatever conflict emerges between the two of us. I have apologized so many times that saying I'm sorry feels like an empty expression at this point. My partner often argues that it's not the intent, but the result of my actions that matters. Still, I feel that my intentions are pure, and all I want is for us to be happy and for me to be loved. Something that I grapple with frequently is her impulse to blame me for her negative feelings. Through my own journey, I have learned that taking control and realizing power over your own emotions is a key step towards not being codependent. Yet, I see her blaming me for her emotional condition day in and day out. She keeps calling me a child and wants me to be an adult. I feel like I have accepted what I have experienced as a child as being an important influence on my current personality, and I'm so much more in control of that than when she recognizes to be the case. I've started trying to express my feelings and needs equally to how she is vocal about hers, but it feels to me that my needs are not being treated equally as important to hers. The more I'm learning to define my boundaries and value my own opinions equally to hers, the more our relationship seems to destabilize. and her pressure on me to be an adult and not a quote-unquote whiny baby. Those pressures grow. Sometimes we have a few days or even weeks of harmony, and it seems like all of the conflicts are unreal. But most of the time, I'm struggling to devalue my own needs and opinions in order to accommodate her needs. I am willing to improve myself, and I am working on increasing my self-esteem and getting over my codependent habits. But I feel like I can't accept 100% of the responsibility for our complicated lives. And I'm not getting any actual feedback that makes me feel optimistic about our future. Do I need to reach the mountain of my own struggle to become a better person before I can ask my partner to do the same? Or is this a sign of incompatible personalities? I can't shake the feeling that there's a better fitting partner for both of us out there, and yet I still wish that the last 7 years were not for naught. Thank you. I appreciate your ability to openly talk about the struggles of our lives. Wow. Okay. So thank you, first of all, so much, Magnificent Soul, for writing in. I am always so blown away by all of the Epiphany Vault entries, mainly because it shows so much trust and vulnerability, which is so hard to do. And thank you for trusting me with all of that. And on top of that, being introspective, and I'm talking from my own experience here, is equally hard. Like, I didn't even know how to be introspective for the longest time. So thank you for opening up and sharing with me. And just a gentle reminder that I'm not a trained medical or therapy professional, but a teller of my own story. So this should in no way substitute for any medical or therapeutic advice. And I feel like when I read this, I can feel and hear your struggle to be happy in what you write. And I just love how you have already taken some time to be as objective as you can with your role in your relationship with your partner. And to me, it sounds like you're on the verge of taking back your power and having an epiphany of your own. And I love your question too, because it shows humility, but I also hear a little bit of future reaching in it as well. And I've been to the point where you are. In fact, I said the exact words that you wrote. I just want to be happy over and over and over. I told myself this. I told my partner this. I said it to myself right before I wanted to commit suicide because I was so desperate. And what I realized later is that all of the sacrifices and attempts at fixing my relationship were also desperate attempts just to be happy. And I was looking for happiness externally and thinking that whatever I was trying to do was going to, quote unquote, fix the problem, then I would be happy forever. And just like you, I was a high achiever, and I really and truly believed that I could fix everything. And I mentioned future reaching. I think I have an episode, and I'll link that up in the show notes. But what I mean by that is that if we are reaching so far in the future and want to be at this happy, euphoric place, we forget where we are now, and we lose sight of where we are now. And my past life was dictated by future reaching. And as I'm looking into your core question, where you asked, do I need to reach the mountain of my own struggle to become a better person before I can ask my partner to do the same? Or is this a sign of incompatible personalities? You know, I'm not sure I can be the one to answer that for you, but I hope I can help you to try to figure it out on your own. And the biggest takeaway that I can offer you is that you are a good person. I don't know you personally, but I do know there's nothing wrong with you. If you're like me, you are not telling yourself that story, though. You're telling yourself there's something wrong with you. And I believe that everyone has something to offer, and I'm not sure that you believe it yourself, to be honest. I only know what you wrote, and it sounds like you've been doing a whole lot already to try to become your version of a better person. But it also doesn't seem like you're getting to where you want to be. Does that make sense? And the quote, I don't know if you've heard of it, by Albert Einstein, I'll paraphrase, but the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And if you're ready to look deeply, I don't know if you are. I mean, I would look at that and maybe write it out in a journal. I can only tell you that if I have felt the frustration of feeling exasperated with trying to do everything and nothing working, I've felt that before. And maybe that ties into your definition of being a better person. And is there a way maybe to be a better person to yourself? I would ask that as well. Or maybe even, how can I be a better person to myself? Like from your gut, are you treating yourself the best way you possibly can? Because I've realized a lot of my frustrations came when I was asking questions about others, which wasn't very efficient because I had no control over them. It was a waste of brain space and a waste of energy. It took a lot for me to realize that, though. So be patient with yourself as you go through this self-discovery that you've already started. And to close this up, about future reaching, in my mind, future reaching sounds like this. If he or she does this one thing, just this one thing, then everything will be okay. He or she should be this way and everything will be fine. I wish he or she would just be a certain way. Why can't he or she insert the action here? And as you put it that way, future reaching, it's kind of a natural way of operating for most people. And it's kind of, I would call it like an expectation snowball in a way, because, does that ever really happen? And so much significance and power when your future reaching is given to something that is supposed to happen, not what is happening. And can we ever control what is supposed to happen? I would even argue that we can't control what's happening now, but we can control how we react to things in the moment right now. And it sounds like you have a pretty good awareness as to what you're feeling and why you are doing things. I think that is amazing self-awareness, actually. I wasn't able to get to that point for a long time. It took me 37 years to get there. What I did, and it may be the next step for you, is to learn practices to retrain your brain on the present moment. I had a lot of success in studying The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle and learning to journal, as that helped me a lot too, even though I did have a lot of resistance with that at the beginning. I really, truly think that power comes in when you are able to connect to the present moment, and power comes when you make decisions on your behalf and within your value system. And I really want you to claim your power as you truly deserve to do. Thank you so much for sharing your story with me and allowing it to share with my listeners, or to share it with my listeners as well. I actually think that it's a really good time right now to segue to today's topic, because a lot of what I faced and what the listener is facing is choice. This has been popping up for me in other ways lately too. Choice was a major talking point on a special guest podcast I recorded recently. And as I struggled with my codependency and throughout my whole life, really, I honestly believed I felt like I didn't have any choice. This made me hard to swallow, but even when I was making decisions, I think inadvertently those decisions, some of the time, weren't really for me or didn't best serve me. I think that I subconsciously listened to a lot of societal suggestions and polarizing thoughts when I made a lot of the quote unquote choices in my life. And here's what's interesting now. Now I know that I was so distant and disconnected from myself that I didn't have a value system or a self-awareness system through which to filter out important decisions in my life. I essentially pursued many things because that's what I was supposed to do. I pursued many things because doing so, everyone else told me, would make me happy. No questions asked. So saying this today and saying that I didn't have many choices before my awakening, it's a little bit extreme. I realize that. But I am sensitive to the fact that a lot of what I did, the way I looked, who I gave my time and energy to, was a byproduct of outside pressures. So if choice is control, which I 100% believe it is, choice is freaking power. And so if choice is control, I had no control over my life, therefore no power over my life. I was a puppet on a string and easy to control, not by myself, but by others. I know, Lily, you may be saying it's not so simple, but in a way I think of it as that simple. I didn't have the self-love, self-knowledge, self-worth to make choices on my own. So I gave up power and I gave up control to people, to things, to food, to drugs. And after a while, and realizing my deep unhappiness and wanting to make changes, I realized that I had no power to make any kind of choice about anything. And that's what led me to the scariest day of my life. I was so lost. I felt like I had no other options, no choice, no power. I was hopeless and completely helpless. I felt like a complete failure. And when you get down that low, it becomes glaringly obvious that there is a major problem. What's ironic is that in the midst of the worst depression and despair, my epiphany hit me. I honestly feel like that was the first time that I actually felt myself. Of course, I was sad, but I felt like, I don't know how to describe it, but like an indescribable pinching in my gut, like a little spark of fire, that it was a live or die thing. It was take my power back now or die forever type of feeling. It was a feeling of hope rather than despair. It was a feeling of what I was actually feeling right then than what I was supposed to feel because my life sucks so bad. It was a feeling of owning rather than giving up. And that was the light in my fire that day, my choice. Can't you see how choice is power? How choice is control? And when you say you have no choice, is that really true? It may be true about the situation, but is it true the way that you react to it? I've always come back when I get stuck in these kind of mind limiting beliefs. I always go back to Eckhart when he says, and what he says about situations, it kind of helps me get things out of my head or helps me kind of rationalize what's going on. And what he says is a situation is just a situation as it is, right then, right there, right now. You only have three choices with that situation: to accept, to enjoy, or to change. I chose change because I couldn't enjoy, and that little fire was telling me that I couldn't accept, even though I had tried. But I couldn't accept that I was actually in this situation. I had gone back to my relationship because I accepted that I was just going to be unhappy for the rest of my life. But I couldn't accept that I was actually going to make the choice to die. So I chose me. And as I'm thinking about this a lot, it lends a lot to what the listener wrote in the Epiphany Vault. And I'm so grateful that I'm here to share with this with you today. Thank you for listening. And until next time, living and loving.